I think it's hard to break down the value of the physical office into current metrics. Like when you're signing up with your lease agreement, it's a cost per square foot or square meter. And that doesn't really mean anything to anyone, but a cost per user is much more meaningful today when you consider fewer people coming to the office. And I just did a quick calculation on like how much we're spending at this office in Sydney for the people that come in. At our rate currently is maybe 3 or 4 people come into the office that could fit 25 people. So the cost per user is quite high. So if we downsized, what could we do with that budget? Like where could we allocate that budget for better outcomes and better, I guess if we're comparing apples to apples, is it about space or productivity and how those two interlink? And if people are working from home, is it best to reallocate that budget that we would have spent on physical space to improving the environment at home for the employees? And this raises so many questions, like where do you invest that money? Is it making sure everyone has the latest MacBook Pro? Is it investing in nice headphones so conference calls are higher quality for the far end when they're using better microphones? Or is it more environmental, chairs, tables, furniture? There's not a one-size-fits-all for any of this because everyone's work from home situation is so different. And also the cultural and the appetite for work from home. A lot of people want to go to the office. So there's the economic question on where do you reallocate budget if we're saving on real estate. But then this creates all these other challenges because the commercial office is fit for purpose and it's more than just like a desk and somewhere to work and to do all your focus work. It's so many different types of spaces that you simply don't have at home. So yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer here. I do think that real estate services companies need to create new services to match this hybrid work environment. And I don't think they've done so fast enough. But at the same time, there's some companies that have been innovating in this space before the pandemic when people like to work from home. Knowledge workers were already on the road or working from home extensively. Before the pandemic, there was concepts of local hubs and the precinct not being a physical space, but a brand in a sense. So if you choose to work at or if your organization chooses to have their office at Barangaroo in Sydney, for example, one of the biggest working precincts in Sydney, well, that's a brand, not just 3 towers. So could Barangaroo also have a local hub in Manly? Can it have a local hub in Parramatta, closer to where more employees might work and choose to go there rather than the main hub in the central business district? So there's all these like concepts that were already experimented with before the pandemic. The pandemic happened, everyone had to adapt rapidly. And I think some of those experiments sort of got left behind, but they were really valuable. And I think that's the sort of thing real estate services companies can focus on now, flexibility and hybrid and using their brand and decoupling that from the physical location. And so we're about serving people. That's fundamentally what we do. We help people. We provide a concierge service that's more than just physical office space and square footage.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess it's just like the technology to facilitate that.
Yeah. With technology, people often talk about how the end user is central to their design, but they often just see the end user as data, right? Like, I think what everyone needs to focus on is technology that provides service. And the service is the outcome. So the technology in many ways should be quite invisible. So the human service can happen, human to human. And I think with the latest trends in technology, we can finally get to this zero-touch technology goal that, Place OS set for ourselves 10 years ago. But AI is helping achieve much faster, where the buildings can respond to the people, the buildings and the tools for the people servicing buildings can predict what the needs are, so they can be one step ahead and provide the best possible service. And I think that's an area that is just rapidly going to change because of AI models. And we need to get away from like booking space or telling some sort of software interface, I'm working from home today, or I'm working from the city today, or it needs to be much more dynamic. I think space needs to be allocated to people when they need it, probably just in time, so the building is very efficient. And this will allow organizations to downsize more dramatically, because it guarantees space for the people coming in, and you don't have to have more space than you need.
And so, like, what are some of the first steps people can take to start on that path to having a just-in-time dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, it's really fundamental. This is a message we've been saying for a long time. To make a building smart is all about knowing where people are and tracking that dynamically. And the difference now is we can plug that data in to models that can use the historic traffic flows of people and the mobility to get to the building in the first place. It can use that as predictive analytics. So we can make predictions on what's going to happen next based on long-term history of all this IoT data of where people are in the building, based on sensors, based on Wi-Fi triangulation, based on swipe card events. All of the data we can get in terms of time series data can feed these models that can then say, well, let's run some scenarios and see we can simulate scenarios in the building so we can plan for them and design for them. But in the operation of the building, just having all of that data, as well as like the user input data, which eventually is less important. So we don't need those booking forms anymore. Like if we're tracking people, collecting that data, doing predictive modeling, then the building should be much more responsive. And then the other side of this is then automating the events as they come through. So workflow automation, not just saying, well, we already know what's going to happen in this building, so here's a bunch of interfaces you have to interact with. Well, what's the point if we know what's going to happen in this building? Let's set the building up for those scenarios. That can be everything from stacking the floor so it's utilized and comfortable. It can also include environmental control, so the building's running most efficiently for the people that are there or the people coming in today. And then the services around this. So if we know who's going to be there, what their preferences are, we can tailor the experience for those individuals and those groups. And that's where the concierge can step in and provide the best experience, having that data, both real time and predictive analytics.
And do you think like all this kind of stuff combined will start to resolve some of the issues that people are facing when they're like saying, well, not that many people are coming in?
Yeah, well, there's so many reasons why people might not be coming in. But for each problem, you could probably solve this in different ways. Like if people don't like coming in because the commute time's too long, or maybe look at where people live and have local hubs so they don't have to commute as far. Or even at that residential level, is there like a co-working experience organizations can co-sponsor with the landlords, or as I said, an extension of the precinct as a brand, and you could have that precinct in your own residential tower. That could solve the commute issue, but also then having good transport systems and the interaction between building and smart city is, I think, changing as well. Like it's easier to predict the journey and the mobility across the city to choose the best service for your desired outcome. Today, without AI, the transport planning systems are pretty point to point. It doesn't take into account different modes of transports that you're hopping between, or it doesn't have all the data on the destinations you go to without using maps or without using some sort of user input. The models aren't collecting that, so it doesn't take those destination options into account. So there's so many areas AI is going to improve that it's all going to come together into this true smart city solution, which the smart building or the workplace is a part of.